Think when you were very young and you were at school, chilling, doing your own thing in class. Then your teacher tells you that you're going to the computer lab. Class goes to computer lab and you don't do jack piss. You were too busy playing Fire Boy and Water Girl with your childhood baby girl. But little did she know you weren't 8 like her, but 27. But further, can you actually recall a time in your first few years of schooling when you weren't screwing around on those computers? Because if so, you were the only one. Everybody else was on that cool math games. Speaking of cool math games, that joint shouldn't have even been called cool math games. Just call it cool games, or just games, or just cool. I mean, that's cool too. Because come on, ain't nobody was playing on that website playing flash games to practice math? Who wants to practice math for fun? Because I'm too busy running in space, raising my pet duck to go to space, and keeping my pizzeria afloat in space. But the specialty of flash games was that these games were heavily user-friendly. Anybody could have just hopped on a computer and played these games. There wasn't a heavy requirement of powerful hardware to find something to play. You just go on the website and there's hundreds of free games that you can play right then and there. Any genre you can think of, there was a flash game for it. Then also any franchise you can think of, there was most definitely some sort of illegal flash game that somebody made for it. And if it was a Nintendo one, yeah, Nintendo got their ass. Flash games were the original mobile apps, but better in every way. There wasn't a large abundance of absurd ads floating across your screen every action you do, nor the constant block of paywalls. What's great about flash games is that they aren't long commitments, they're merely just mindless fun. This may not be surprising, but the learning curve for flash games is very shallow. Once you start to get the hang of any game, that's when the game finally becomes more enjoyable. During the era of flash games, this was the fast-paced, mindless content that was consumed. In defense of flash games, at least for the most part, they weren't brain rot compared to the short-form content we have nowadays, because you can't play flash games and be a corpse. You can't be mindless. You gotta think, you gotta strategize, you gotta build defense, or else the balloons are gonna come for your ass fast and hard. Pause, run it back. Balloon Tower Defense was one of the first strategy games that I played and actually was able to understand whatever the hell was going on in it. But it's very complicated since it's a strategy game. It's about monkeys popping balloons, and you gotta build up your defense, build up that D. Run it back? It's a game that doesn't punish you for failure, but grants you the ability to adapt your own strategies. And playing this game as a kid or as a grown-ass individual still provides a challenge. Balloon Tower Defense is fun, addictive, and simple. Matter of fact, it's so simple, Netflix picked it up. Netflix? On a streaming service? Like, how they put in games on a streaming service? Like, how? I guess tower defense games are just that easy. And Balloon Tower Defense was doing it the best. Since the 80s of 2D games, most of them have pretty much been platformers. The recipe of Donkey Kong set the stage for Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. Set the stage for pretty much every other platformer after that. And platforming as an idea isn't that complicated. I'm not a game designer myself, but if my Mario Maker skills are to be put into account here, which is kind of doo-doo to be honest, if you have the right tools, making a platforming game isn't too complicated. It's always been easy since humans got their hands on computers, and also open source tools for game creation. There's so many flash games that are platformers because you already know, when something is easy, everyone gonna do it. But still to this day, the most unique platformer I've ever played is still the Fancy Pants Adventure series. This game's art direction it's just badass. It genuinely is sick. In flash games, stickman drawings, they're very common. And the Fancy Pants Adventure series took the stickman idea and wanted to go hog wild. The art style is just so distinct, not compared to just other stickman flash games, but flash games as a whole. You can see Fancy Pants' hair moving when he does flips and runs. Then when they want characters to stand out, they give them a distinct color or a completely different art design. The personality of the game presents itself without saying anything but showing its quirky atmosphere. And the gameplay for this game aged really well. The game's platforming is incredibly smooth for a Flash game, and the mechanic in the game to use your momentum to navigate through the maps is not a very common thing I see in platformers, but it sure as hell is fun to use. Furthermore, I want to let you know this game is hard. Pause, of course. Not like a blow a fuse in your brain kind of hard, but pouring a bowl of cereal to find out there's no milk kind of frustrating. So when you finally use your platforming skills to complete a section of this game, it feels gratifying to just have finally done it. But all in all, the Fancy Pants Adventure series is a lighthearted game, and it's about a dude's sister who got kidnapped. That's cool. I mean, not the kidnapping, but the game. It's cool. Another category of Flash games I loved playing was zombie games.
Like these games, he's so fired that my boy Obama even had to pull up to his joint.
I loved Resident Evil, so I decided to dabble in the Flash game zombie scene. And I remember one series named The Last Stand, and it was good, really good. So good, in fact, that the game got a Legacy Edition on Steam. Then also, it didn't become just a web browser game now, it became a full-on RPG indie game. And that game looks fire. I mean, I ain't played it yet, but I mean, it's totally fire. My favorite game from the series was The Last Stand Union City. However, at the current moment, the web browser version of this game is actually unplayable and is not preserved. This is what it looks like. I tried playing on the web browser. It doesn't work. But still, a great game nonetheless. In Union City, there was RPG elements in the game, and there was a leveling up system as you progress through the story with your character. And throughout the game, your character would accumulate skill points, just like most other RPGs. Actually, all RPGs. For a Flash game, this was incredibly expansive because there was various ways that you could play this game. I loved playing this game as a kid, and I would constantly come back and play this game again because I have simple values, but also because this game was free. And I also had something new to try out every playthrough. And still to this day, I love RPGs that allow you to make different choices and shape the world around you. I mean, Fallout New Vegas is hands down my favorite RPG, and I consider it to be the best RPG I've ever played.
And coincidentally enough, Fallout New Vegas has a similar atmosphere to The Last Stand Union City. They are both post-apocalyptic games. So I will say, I give credit to The Last Stand Union City to introducing me to my newfound love of RPG games. And Roblox too. I mean, I gotta give credit again. Sticking in the genre of Flash games,
with Flash games as a whole, people have the opportunity to get real wacky with their games. Since Flash games aren't very intuitive, people can go and make whatever type of game they want. You guys remember the Flash game, I Saw Her Standing There? I Saw Her Standing There it's a pretty cute game. It's an interesting mix of genres, which is including 2D platforming, zombies, and romance. It's a love story about a human male trying to get some zombie pokey. Also, does that like constitute as like necrophilia? Because, you know, like she's dead. Well, I mean technically undead, right? I don't know. But this means bro is so down bad, he's trying to get some from a walking corpse. Look, in his defense, y'all ever seen Corpse Bride 2005? Look, I'm just saying, I'll hear him out. But I'm not joking when I say this game is pretty heartwarming. It's just another unconventional love story. As you progress through the game, the protagonist shares the struggles that the two have to go through during the apocalypse, from having to love each other from a distance, other zombies poo-tang blocking, or not even being able to show physical affection towards each other. However, by the end of the story, the protagonist learns that if he truly wants to fall in love, he has to become a zombie like her and spend the rest of their lives together and eating pancakes. It's a simple platformer, nothing too crazy and exquisite at a technical standpoint for a Flash game. It still makes a good story about love, acceptance, and sacrifice. And that's the beauty of Flash games. This game at its current state wouldn't be a very good full-on game, especially the fact that this game is like 15 minutes long. However, it works beautifully as a Flash game. In the modern era of short-form games, Flash games have pretty much been overran by mobile games. Hell, the Flash game era is pretty much over because Adobe Flash is gone. It's unfortunate that they've practically gone obsolete because Flash games were an amazing thing. There were countless of free games. They weren't amazing or spectacular, but you know what they were? Ambitious. Because most of these games are where game developers got their start. Flash games were a significant part of various childhoods, being a gateway into discovering the joys of video games. It was mindless fun to pass the time, and they weren't long-term commitments. Flash games proved how games can still be engaging and fun
at its simplest form,
since they're still creative and easily accessible. These games will always have a special place in thousands of people's hearts. Flash games were an exemplary example of what video games should be. A joyful experience for your mind to escape and to pass the time.
but not mindless like a zombie, like I said. Oh, and also, it is not okay to be with a zombie. I mean, I guess at that point, if it's an apocalypse, it truly does not matter because morals, they ain't there. So, laws, they ain't there either. But I hope